Harvesting tomatoes again. Some of these plants are looking a little worse for wear because they weren't getting enough water. We just weren't watering for a while there. But now we're watering about every couple days. Temperatures have been above 100. There's still tons of fruit on everything. So I'm just gonna pick as much as I can today. Some that are not quite ripe yet too, because otherwise the bugs are gonna get them. Ew, chickens will like that. So if you've ever noticed these sort of blotchy spots on your tomatoes, that's from sucking bugs. And some people still eat these anyway. I don't eat them because what they do is the squash bugs will inject it's kind of like an acid that eats away at the fruit and then they suck it out. So I don't want to eat any of that. Look at this one. This Zinnia is so beautiful. I thought I'd tag that one for seed saving. So I just pick all the tomatoes and I leave them in the aisle, and then I come back with some buckets and pick them up. Look at the squash is still doing extremely well. I've had some questions about how I get my squash plants and cucumbers and stuff to live for so long and not get taken away by the borer vines. And all I do is I use spinosad or BT, and you can inject it into the stem of the plant about 2 inches from the soil, or you could spray them on the stems, not the leaves. Believe it or not, you want to spray the stems, not the leaves, because the caterpillars don't eat through the leaves when they hatch from the eggs that are on the leaves. They actually will eat through the stems, or they'll eat through the main stem. So those are the areas that you want to spray, and you want to spray in the late afternoon to the evening time when all of your flowers are closed, because you don't want your pollinators to get into it. So that's all I do, and I've only done it twice this entire season, and my plants are not dying. They're not affected by the borer vines, and every single one of these, believe it or not, does have a hole in the stem where a caterpillar ate through, but they die right away before they could cause any damage. Every single one. So it works, and that's what I do to keep my squash plants living a long time. And back there you can see all my cucumbers that I've got planted as well, and those are doing really well too. The tomatillos are crazy, and I actually just realized that I grew the wrong variety. I always grow green tomatillos, and I thought these were the green ones, but these are the yellow pineapple tomatillos, which I don't like. Well, I take that back. I do like them, but I only like them for eating fresh. I don't like them for making salsas and things. They tend to be a lot smaller than the green tomatillos, and they're a lot sweeter, which I don't really like for my salsas. I don't want too much sweetness in there. I kind of like them to be a little bit more tart like the green ones do. But the ground cherries look really good. I don't know if you can see them right in there. This is one ground cherry plant. and it goes all the way down right there. And then you can see the okras coming through, and the pink zinnias just started blooming in that row. So it's really condensed, really densely planted. And right now, this is powdery mildew season. And we have it really bad here in Northeast Texas. And so what I do to combat powdery mildew, I guess I'm sharing all my tips in this video. What I do to combat it is I just spray with 1 part milk, 4 parts water, just regular whole milk, raw. Again, 1 part milk, 4 parts water. I spray it like once or twice during the really humid parts of the season. Like right when it gets to about 100 degrees here in Texas, that's when I start spraying. And I don't get any powdery mildew. Even on my zinnias, I never ever have powdery mildew in my garden. So that's my little secret. If you look close enough over here, you could see I've got some ground cherries that are almost ready, and I cannot wait. I love these. They're not quite ripe yet. You gotta wait until they fall off the plant. So they usually turn this color, and then they'll fall off the plant and turn like a yellowy orange. That's when you can eat them. If you eat them too soon, you're gonna end up getting a really bad stomach ache and probably the runs, because these have a lot of that, is it solanine? I don't know. It's the same thing that's in green tomatoes, but they're toxic if you eat them while they're green. This one is just starting to turn yellow, but it's still fairly green. So that one's not quite ready yet. But you can see I've got some good sized ones in there. And you guys, these are so good. They do taste very similar to a yellow pineapple tomatillo, but they're much better. Ooh, and I think I just saw one, or a few that have fallen off. I think I may give these to the kids because they love these so much. So that's what it should look like before you eat them. And oh my goodness, they're delicious. So not a bad little treat for working in the garden. And I've got 5 of them, enough to give 1 to each kid and 1 to Garrett. Here's a really tiny pineapple tomatillo. That's what those look like. They look just like the ground cherries. And again, these taste very similar to ground cherries. So if you want a large ground cherry, these are a good pick. And you can make pies with these too. They kind of taste like a sour plum to me, or an unripe plum. So over here in this garden, we've got a bunch of squash, spaghetti squash, scallop squash. You can see deep in there, there's a bunch of huge ones in here, massive ones. And I think this plant has a bunch too. Oh my goodness, look at that. There are so many in there. And I saw yesterday there was a bunch of spaghetti squash grown in here too. You see them down in there. So I'm excited to store a bunch of those this season. And you can see one of these vines could have gotten killed off by a borer vine, or it could have been from me walking on it. But I actually haven't treated any of these with the BT yet, so I'm surprised that I didn't lose more than one. So yeah, they look pretty good. Starting to creep out here a bit. You can see there. And then all of these crawling on the ground. Look at all the grass that's taken over just from those little holes. There's zinnias in here too, but there's a ton of the yard long beans just laying down. I never got around to trellising them. And then there's a bunch of cucumbers in here. You can see them in here. So, yep, that's what's going on over here. So this is the row where I planted the pink zinnias and okra. So every other one was a zinnia and an okra. And this is the red okra, and you can see it coming through the squash here. It's looking pretty good. This is the okra plant. There's some tomatoes in here too. You know how I am, you guys. I really like to crowd stuff together because it just gets too hot out here, and this is how stuff stays alive. These are all the cherry tomatoes that are reaching the top of the pole here. You can see we've got some sun golds in there that are ripe, some sweet millions down in there, so I'm gonna have to crawl in here. These I definitely planted a little bit too close because I don't know how I'm gonna get all these tomatoes and all this squash, but we'll manage somehow. These are the zinnias that I planted in here just a few weeks ago. I've got to do this whole area and that whole area with my pincushion, or not pincushion, scabious zinnias. I guess you can call them pincushion zinnias because they're using the same name, but they're doing really well considering the high heat. I did lose a few though that I'm going to end up replacing, but pretty happy with them so far. Garrett's first ground cherry of the season.
Man,
Is it good? This is a new variety that I haven't grown. It's called Hanover. I think it is. It's either Aunt Molly's or Hanover because I planted both of those, but I think it's Hanover. It's supposed to taste better than the Aunt Molly's.
Strawberry, kind of like, not pineapple, but...
Do you think it tastes
tropical.
less tomatoey than the other variety?
100%.
Okay, then this must be the Hanover variety.
Yeah, it does.
They're huge over there.
That's good.
Awesome. I think you got a mosquito bite on your face right there. This is the pumpkin patch. Doing pretty good, although some of them are not liking the dry parts. The ones that are near the sprinkler are doing good. Oh yeah, a little pumpkin over there. One right here, I think that's a white pumpkin. Oh, there's two right there.
Yeah, there's more in there. You can't really see them, but they're there.
You don't want to crawl in there and find them? Anywho, they're doing really well considering the high temps, because usually my pumpkins tank at this stage in the summer, but I still try every year. Oh my gosh, there's a huge one over here. Look at that. Oh my gosh, another one right there. I don't know why I get so excited for pumpkins, but I do, because I haven't had the best success with pumpkins here, mostly because my chickens will eat them before I get a chance to harvest them. So when I see them get to that size, I'm super happy, because even if the plant dies, I'm going to get a good pumpkin out of that. And you guys, you can pick your pumpkins when they're green. So if they're green right before Halloween, if you pick them, they will turn orange. I've had to do that a few times because the pumpkins weren't ready yet. They're still growing, which these ones probably will still be growing by that time. But it looks awesome. I love the look of this pumpkin patch. I want one that is 10 times this big next year.